Hey everyone, welcome back. So in today's video, we will learn how we can connect multiple data source, so that is SharePoint list or library, to a single PowerApps gallery control. So let's take an example. This is my SharePoint and I have these three different lists: account assets, IT assets and finance assets. All of these three different lists actually having a very similar data. So they are tracking different assets like laptop, smartphone across different departments. Now what I want to do, I want to create an app that can show me all the data coming from these different lists. So instead of creating a different app, what I'm trying to do, have a single app that will show me or consolidate data from these all three different lists into a single gallery control that you are seeing on the screen. So this is my app. I have this gallery control, and if you see on the right hand side, this is the indicator showing the data coming from the different lists. So this is for finance. I can just keep scrolling down. I am bringing first 50 result, and then as you can see, now it's coming from IT, and if I keep going, now it's coming from accounting. I can click more, it's going to keep bringing the more data as in my list. So I can keep going further, and it's going to keep bringing data from my SharePoint list. Okay, so we're going to build, or I'm going to show you how you can build an app like this, where a single gallery control can bring data from different SharePoint lists. So stay tuned. Welcome back. So let's start understanding the data source that I have. So this is my SharePoint. I have created three lists, okay, and all these three lists are having the same column. It's not necessary that they should have the same column, but for this video, I'm keeping them same. If you have the different list, this method will still work. Okay, so as you can see here, I have account list, I have IT and the finance. Now what I want to do, I want to create an app that should show the data coming from all these three different lists into the single gallery control. Okay, so let me log into my PowerApps and we will create a new blank app. Okay, and I'm going to add a new screen here. So let me make a connection to all those three lists, and then we will go after that. So I'll go to the add data connections, select the SharePoint, okay, and I'm going to select those three lists, click connect. So what this is going to do, this is going to create the three connection. Now why I'm doing it, because I need to show you something, that why we really need this method, what I'm going to show you. Okay, so we have these three lists. Now I'm going to insert a gallery control here. Okay, now as you can see here, I can only select one of these data source to show in my gallery, right? I cannot show multiple. Now there may be a question that, oh, we can actually create a collection and collect all the data together and show it. So yeah, let's try that. Okay, so what we're going to do, on app on start, I'm going to collect, or I'm trying to collect data from all these three lists. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm creating a collection called data collect, and then passing all these three list data source that I've created. Okay, I will run it. So click on run and start. So this will execute, and then I will go back to my gallery. Here we can say data collection. Okay, and then changing this item dot title so we can see the value, and also let's change this to the department so we can see from which list this is coming in. Okay, and this is the internal column name in my list. So if I go to the department, you see this is the column name for my list. So just make sure that you are selecting the column name that you have. Now if I run it, by looking at it, it looks perfectly fine, but let me do one setting change. To check the delegation, or to make sure that our app is ready to work with the large data set, I'm going to change this 500 to 1. So as you notice, the moment I change the number of data row limit to 1, that means, so it's saying that if the delegation is not supported, bring only first record. And if I go back and click on run and start to rerun the call, and you see here from all of those 3 lists I'm only getting 1 record. So what does that mean? That means that if I go here, this is limited to 2000. That's the limit. That's max I can go, right? So if any of my list is going to have more than this record, it's not going to be supported or delegable. Okay, so instead of using this method, we're going to use another method that can support any number of the item that you can have across these 3 different lists. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to insert a button here. Okay, and what we're going to do, we're going to call a Power Automate flow from here. So select the button, and on the left hand side you will see this Power Automate. Click create new flow. Okay, create flow. We're not going to select any template. Okay, now this will automatically have this action, that is trigger point. We are triggering this from PowerApp. Now here we're going to add a couple of parameters, right? So the first parameter that we will add, type text, we will call it list URL. Okay, and why we are creating this? In this parameter, we're going to send the URL of the list, and the second input we're going to add is a list title. This will allow us to send any list or any number of lists that we want to combine together. Okay, so these 2 parameters we need. Okay, now we're going to click on the next step, search for SharePoint, and what we're going to use, we're going to use the send an HTTP request to SharePoint. Okay, select the site address. So our all 3 lists under this particular site collection. You can also have your list into the different site collection as well, and you can just pass that parameter from the Power App. Here we are keeping everything in one single site collection. Method is going to be the get, and here we're going to use the API, and this API is pretty simple, and you can actually see what the example is, and we are actually going to use exact the same one. So underscore API web list get by title, and then you need to pass the title of your list. Okay, so this part is pretty straightforward. API web list get by title, single quote, and then we're going to select the list title that we are getting from PowerApp. Okay, again slash items. So this will give me all the items. Then you need to add one more thing. Okay, so here we're going to pass some parameter that will allow us to keep getting more and more results from these lists to the PowerApp. It's kind of a pagination, so question mark. Okay, and then we're going to put the list URL, and I will walk you through what you need to pass in this list URL. Okay, this is the API that you need to create. So we made our API call to get the data from any list and by the number of items that we're going to choose when we going to call this from PowerApp. Now only thing we need to do, we need to send this back to the PowerApp. So add a new step, search for PowerApp, okay, and respond to a PowerApp or flow. Add an output, we're going to call it response. Okay, now before we send anything back to the PowerApp, let's see how we are getting the result, right? So I'm going to save it. For now I'm going to pass just the empty string, save it, make sure the name of this flow is good. Okay, and so I changed the flow name, and I'm going to also change this, rename it to get items. Just a good practice to always keep these names so that it's easier for you to understand. So now if I come back to my app, it should have a right name display here. Okay, so now I'm going to go on select get list item dot run. This is how you call the flow from your app. Here you see there are 2 parameters, text and text1. So the first one is the list URL. Okay, here I'm going to pass $top equals to 20. Now what is this? Actually this is what we are saying, that give me the top 20 results. So when we're going to send this API request to a SharePoint list, we're going to only fetch first 20, and then we're going to keep fetching 20 after 20. Okay, and you can increase this, you can go 100, 200. Okay, and the second one is what we're going to pass is the title of the list. For now, run it, click button. Okay, now I'm going to go to make.powerautomate.com. okay, my flow, and I should see my flow listed here. As you can see here, get list item. Now if you go to the run history, you should see one successful. Like we will go here, okay, open the get items, and this is what I want you to see here, right? So we have used this API request. IT assets is the name of the title, and we say top 20. What this is going to do is going to just bring the first 20 record. And if you look at here, the response that we are getting is D results, okay? When we are sending it back to the Power App, we need to make sure that we are sending starting here. So entire results that we are getting, okay? So if I edit this flow now, okay, so in the response, what we're gonna do, we're gonna come to the response, select the result of this get item, that's body, right? But you remember, right, this is not what we want to send. What we want to send is anything that is after that D. So I'm gonna Control C or copy it, paste it. So this will become body get items, question mark, D, okay? So this is what we will send. Click save. Now I'm going to go back to my app, click button. Okay, so now you see here, right, I got the entire result or response that I got in my Power Automate. But if you see, the data type is saying text, so this is going to be useless for us because we need to extract the information coming in the different columns that we have in our SharePoint list. Okay, so to do that, there is a function in Power App called parse JSON, right? And what it does, it takes an input that is in the JSON structure, and it parses it to the JSON. So that's all. We are just going to parse the response into the JSON, okay? And then if I run it again, now if you go to the list data, it's saying untyped. So don't worry about it. That means the data, the response that we got has already been converted to the JSON, but because it was not, Power App doesn't know the structure, so it's saying yes, I convert it, but it's not a type, but I can still use it. And how, I'll show you. Coming back to this gallery, okay, and one more thing that I'm gonna do, put a semicolon, and here I'm gonna do a clear collect, okay, create another collection. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the response or the variable that I created here. Because this data has already been formatted, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to convert it to the table. Okay, and this is where you're going to see that it is converted. So as you know, we have that results, right? If you look at the response that we were getting, so in the Power Automate, the response that is going, so D, this is what we selected, so we are sending this results. So here is the results. What we can do, I'm going to type the same name here, and you notice that I'm not getting any error. So that means it understanding, it just not showing you what is inside. So I got the results. So what I did my variable dot results, that is here, and I'm passing it to this data collection. And I'll come back to my gallery, and instead of this, I will use my newly created data collection. I'm going to run it again, so it will start fetching the value. And now you notice it has some records. So if I go to the each and every item here in my table, this item dot, you see, right? So it is showing up. So saying this item dot value, this is going to give you the entire thing dot. Now I need to know my column name that I'm using my list. Similarly, if I go to this one, this item dot value dot, I know my column name is field underscore 6. Awesome, right? Okay, so what we did now, we send the request to Power Automate, pass the $20, that is top 20 record, pass the title, get the response, parse it to the JSON, and collecting into the new data and converting the response that we got into the table. Okay, and then converting it to table and then assigning it to the gallery. Now if you want to use more list, it's very simple approach. The only thing we need to do, we need to copy this entire thing, right? So let's say in my case I have 3 lists, correct? I'll do it 3 times and just gonna change the name of my list that I have. And you notice, right? So we got results from IT list, finance list, and accounting list. Pretty much straightforward, right? Now what about getting more results, because we are only getting first 20, right? And how are you going to do it? I need to show you the result one more time. So every request that you're going to make, right? This is the result. Let me quickly show you this result. Okay, so this is the response that we are getting. Okay, we are passing this D, and this is what's going. Results will have all the information about the items and columns and everything. And then you will also get this underscore underscore next. What this URL is going to do, it's going to give you the next 20. So after we get the result, if we call this particular URL, we will get next 20, and then keep going until we reach to the last item. So we're going to utilize this to get the next 20 or whatever number of item in per request you're going to decide. If you decide 10, it's going to keep giving you 10. If you decide 50 or 100, it will just give you the next 100 or next 50. Okay, so this is coming in underscore underscore next. Okay, so I'll go back to my Power App. Okay, here what we're going to do, we're going to create 3 more variables. Okay, so we created list 1 URL, list 2 URL, and list 3 URL, and use the initial load here. And here I'm going to pass the parameter here. So list 1 URL, list 2. Okay, now why we are doing it, because we need to, when we opening this app first time, we're going to pass this in the URL, but when we're going to, after the first load, when we need the more next result, we're going to, instead of passing this top 50, we're going to use our next URL that you have just seen. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this entire thing, because this is for the first load, right? So I'll go to the app on start. This is where I'm going to call these functions. So this is our initial load. When app is going to start, I'm going to set up these URL like this, make the call to the Power Automate for the first set of result. Here I am passing 50, you can change it, and then collect the information here. Okay, minimize it, click on 3 dot, run on start. This is how you can test if you are not yet published this app, right? And you see, right, the data is here. Now in this button, we're going to change few things. We don't need to initiate that, right? But what we need to do now, we need to find out the right URL that we should be using, right? So if you look at this URL, okay, and I just decode it, so you see here is saying this is my site collection, and then we have the API that we were using, API web list, get list by item, the list name, items question mark, and after question mark, this is what we need to get out, right? And why we are getting this out, because if we look at our flow, we already have this part until question mark, right? Everything is gonna match here. So instead of passing only $top20, we also need to pass these parameter that will allow us to get next results, right? And so how we can achieve this? This is coming as a string. If I split this with the question mark, the later part or the second half of this split will give me this. So we're gonna use this function in our Power App, and let me quickly show you. Okay, so here I'm gonna say set list 1 URL, that's what we are setting, and what's going to be the value. So last, okay, split, and what we are splitting, text list 1 data dot, and the character is question mark dot value. Okay, so let's understand this function. First, we are converting this list1 data. So list1 data is the response that we are getting from Power Automate. So this one, this entire thing, right? And we are saying dot next. This is the parameter that we are passing here, right? So this line of the code is going to give me this value, right? And then I'm going to split this with the question mark, and that will give me anything that is after question mark. That is my URL for the next, right? So this entire section is going to give me the next URL, and I'm passing that, assigning that to the list1 URL and passing it here. Very straightforward. Now I'm going to repeat this for 3 times because I have 3 lists. If you have 2 lists, you can repeat this 2 times. Okay, so we have created our 3 next URL, and after that everything is going to remain the same. We're going to just call our Power Automate flow and assign it to the collection. Let's run it. Now when I click on the button, what it should do is it should go and get me the next 20 results for all of my 3 lists. And you can see here, right? And you can look at the ID. They have started from 51 because I have the parameter that I set as 50. Click again. Now it will get me the next 50 results. Okay, so as you see, after 2 attempts, we got this error saying that something like text blank cannot be assigned. What does that mean? That means that one of the lists has already completed all the records. This list URL, when we say underscore next, it's coming as empty because it's only going to give you this underscore next if there is a result that you can query, right? So to cover this, we also need to have a check that if a particular list completed its record, we don't need to have an error, but just keep continue on the other list. So I'm going to start with this, and we're going to repeat this to all the list, right? So here we're going to check the URL is blank. So if this particular variable is blank, then we're going to just pass the blank, right? So the blank variable, so passing nothing. And then if it is not blank, that means we have the next result. We're going to continue on that. Okay, so we applied the same logic, same if logic to all the 3 lists. I'm going to restart the app here, run it. And now I'm going to keep clicking on the button. So it's going to give me the more and more results. So now if you notice, my 3rd list item were not appearing here because we are now at the 100 plus, and my account asset list only have 60 items. So that way it's bypass the one list and it's keep going and bringing the value for other list, right? And if we keep going, it's gonna just get all the results finished, right? The one thing we can also do, so what I did here, I'm just checking if list 1 URL, list 2 URL, list 3 URL, if all of these 3 are blank, then make this button disable so that you won't just keep clicking on that one, right? What we can also do, I'm going to just duplicate this button, and this button can be the home, so we can just go back to the front value, and what the logic should be, the same logic that we are doing on the app start, right? So this home button will have the same logic that we have on start, and it won't have the logic to disable it. So we're going to keep the display mode added because we want this home button to be always activated. Okay, now if I click on the home button, you see, right, I got my first record, first set of record. I can click on more. It's going to bring me the next set of result and keep going, and I can always go back from the home. Yeah, so this is all. Now you learn how you can connect multiple lists to a single PowerApps gallery. Yeah, so this is all for this video. I hope this will be helpful for you. Thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing.